Among other things, I am a doctor of sexology. Now you can imagine that leads into some pretty interesting conversations at cocktail parties, at medical conferences, and in my office. A classic one from some of my patients goes like this. Dr. Keesha, my sex drive has run off and left me. I'm strung out, overworked, overtired. My girlfriend said you gave her bioidentical hormones, and they're a miracle. I want some of that. Being the medical detective that I am, I probe a little further. And I say, so Jane, and we'll call this woman Jane, when's the last time you had a libido level that you were happy with? Well, this is where stories unfold that will tell you how complex women's libido really is and why we have to actually look for the root cause of what's going on when it tanks, and why there will never be a pill to fix something like women's libido. So I get answers that range like this. Libido? I've never had a libido. Or stories of overwhelm, overscheduled, overtired, overly self-critical women who are not taking care of themselves each and every day or setting good boundaries and saying yes to doing everything and have nothing left over for themselves. Sometimes I get stories that involve chronic pain, sometimes with a chronic illness like an autoimmune disease. And you'll see as I progress that autoimmunity and low vitality are intimately connected in women. Sometimes depression, and of course, being treated with an antidepressant whose number one side effect is, can you guess? Low libido, right? In each of these cases, women are often asking me for hormones. And sometimes that is entirely appropriate. It is the root cause. For example, a woman that comes to me and says, Dr. Keesha, my sex drive ran off and left me. I love my husband. I want to have sex with my husband. But every time I have sexual intercourse, ever since menopause, it feels like I have cut glass in my vagina. In the other cases, I have to say, Jane, you know that estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone are not going to give you a juicy sex life if you never had one before. We need to get to the root cause. And in this case, I'm listening for clues to her missing libido in the story of her body, her microbiome, as we just heard before, in her emotions, in her libido story, in her beliefs about herself and the world that she lives in. In other words, we have to patch the hole in the bottom of the boat. Now, why do I know this? Because this is my own story. In my early 30s, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, which back then was an incurable autoimmune disease, and it still remains an incurable autoimmune disease in the conventional medical model of pick the drug that matches the symptom. So I went in to see my doctor, strung out, overtired, no sex drive, and I didn't care about it, and completely overwhelmed with the pain that I was in. I was prescribed an antidepressant medication, a cancer-fighting drug, and a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. I went home and I looked up the side effects of these. I had rheumatoid arthritis in my genetics. My grandfather had it. My rheumatologist shrugged her shoulder and said, it's genetic. Come back and see me in 6 months or when it gets worse. What I saw in the side effect profile in my research on these medications didn't make me very happy. If I were to follow that conventional medical model today, I'd probably be on Ambien for sleep, probably on an antidepressant, on hormones, Adderall for a lack of focus and concentration, right? And I would be chasing the symptoms that had been caused by the methotrexate. So I did my own research, and I discovered a lot of science that linked meditation and yoga positively to helping people with autoimmune disease. So I started practicing yoga and practicing meditation. One day while I was sitting in meditation, I started working with the word autoimmune. And I realized auto meant I was attacking myself. My immune system had turned on me. So I asked the question that forever changed my health journey and my medical practice. Why was I committing suicide in a societally acceptable way? This was a battle I couldn't win, me fighting me. So I started searching my memory banks for a time when I didn't want to live, and I found it. My 10-year-old little girl self sitting out on a balcony feeling very unprotected, very unsafe, and very much like I wanted to die. You see, I'm one of the tens of thousands of adults who are sexually molested in childhood. This was happening while I was in elementary school when I was 10 years old. So you could say I had an ACE score of 1. ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experience, and it refers to the ACE study that was done between 1995 and 1997 by the Centers for Disease Control and Kaiser Permanente. This study linked adverse childhood experiences to the chronic illnesses that we get as adults, such as autoimmune disease. So with my ACE score of 1, meaning I had endured 1 trauma that they measured in this study, that put me at an 18% higher risk of getting autoimmunity than if I had an ACE score of 0. Now, what does this have to do with libido level, with women's vitality, with your hormone levels? Turns out everything. So I want you to picture a savanna in Africa and a hungry lioness chasing down a zebra. The zebra is about to be lunch and it knows it. The sympathetic nervous system has just activated in the zebra. You have one too. So do I. Whenever there's a threat to you, you perceive a threat or there's an actual danger, you go into what we call fight or flight. This zebra knows that it's not safe to stop and have sex right now, right? So all the hormones that are responsible for you to feel sexual desire are co-opted by your internal harm and alarm system. Your body knows innately that it's not safe to stop and go to the bathroom, to sleep. It's going to only remember what's pertinent for survival. There goes your memory. And you're not going to feel libido. So this is what happens. In childhood, remember, our childhood brains are still immature. We're not fully developed until we're 26 years old in our brain. Has an experience that it can't explain. So you make up a story about that with an immature brain. You carry those stories as beliefs into your adulthood. In adulthood, they inform your behaviors. Research shows that if you have an ACE score of 1 or more, or have experienced trauma, that you're a little more likely to be hypervigilant about looking for danger. Your radar's tuned in, turned up a little bit higher. Well, hypervigilant mind means a hypervigilant immune system. Now you're going to be looking for danger, perceived or otherwise, sets off that fearful thinking response and the feelings in your body and your mind, and there go your hormones, and there goes your sex drive, ladies. So here I am, newly diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I have 4 beautiful children, a life that I love, and I don't want to die, but I'm wired with a 10-year-old girl's pain. So I knew I didn't need medication. I knew I needed reprogramming. I need to rewire my sympathetic nervous system's response, tune down that hypervigilance, let my cells know that the messaging that they received when I was 10 years old had been outdated. I needed to upgrade my operating system. So I did. Worked really hard at this. This is not magic pill theory stuff. This is hard work. And within a year, my rheumatoid arthritis was gone, never to be seen in 20 years, and no medications. How did I do this? I developed a system called the Freedom Framework. It's what I use with my patients today. It's what I use to myself. It has 4 steps. First is uncover the root cause. You have to look at your microbiome, your body, your mind, your heart, your spirit, and your story. Then confront the data that you collect through your laboratory testing and the other things that you're going through with your data collection process. Then connect the dots between what you're eating, what's on your fork matters, what you're drinking, how you're thinking and how you're believing with how you feel today. Then create the life you actually want to live with intentionality instead of what I call the factory default settings from your childhood story. Now, this experience for me, along with the hundreds of women that were coming to me looking for hormones for low libido and other things that we mentioned before, inspired me to do my own study. There was nothing in the medical literature that showed what I just said. I called it the HURT study, Healing Unresolved Trauma. I did it in 2013, and I asked women, is there an old experience from childhood that was traumatizing to you? Remember, it's perceived, right? That you believe is being activated in your current day relationship that's affecting your level of libido. 80% said yes. What I learned was new to medicine, but not new to developmental psychology. So remember, brain's not fully developed till you're 26. So now we have an opportunity to use these old traumas, right, as a catalyst for human growth and development. Another thing that I found is a piece of research from Professor Saskia Mole and her team. And she found that chronic daily stress, how you perceive your stress on a day-to-day basis, actually acts the same way inside your body and your mind as post-traumatic stress disorder or an ACE score of 1 or more. So you could say that PTSD and an ACE score of 1 or more are trauma with a capital T, and daily perceived stress, trauma with a lowercase t. Now the other interesting thing is these both affect the brain in the same way. You can see right here in the right-hand side of this PET scan. The brain is damaged in the prefrontal cortex, the place that you need to be making your decisions as an adult. The other thing I found is that as I was mapping the brain with the neurobiology of libido and PTSD, I found that the areas of the brain that are needed for women to feel sexual desire are the same areas affected by stress. Again, there goes your libido, ladies, right? So, we've covered a broad cross-section of sciences. Psychology, endocrinology, neurobiology, immunology, and sexology. All to get to the root cause of autoimmunity and low libido in women can be summed up with a handy-dandy little acronym, penis. Not to worry, ladies, I have you covered. The parts of the brain that I told you are needed for you to feel sexual desire, summed up in the word vagina. So the good news about all this is, in spite of what you saw in those brain scans, this is reversible. You can heal from trauma. It will actually take some trauma release therapy. I certainly needed it. But the process of releasing held on to hurt, of learning to forgive perpetrators who have hurt you, and then forgiving yourself for holding on to your pain and yourself for hurting others, is what grows compassion and empathy in you, and a love for life and all of life's experiences so that you stop judging them as good or bad. This process tones up the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is the other side of your autonomic nervous system. It's the one where you can feed and breed, or rest and digest. It's the one that you can sit with your beloved and fully connect with vulnerability and intimacy, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. This is the one that allows you to go to the bathroom and sleep and wake up rested, and to remember the life experiences that you want to hold on to. Why is this all so important? You might have guessed by now that libido is much more than sex. It's your life force. It is a benchmark for measuring your vitality level. In Ayurvedic medicine, it's called ojas. I call it your O-juice, your passion. You get on the scale and you look at your weight as feedback from your body about your metabolism. You go and get your blood pressure checked for feedback about your heart, your eyes about your vision. Check in with your libido level for your vitality. It's important. It's like a gas gauge on your dashboard of your car. You know that if that thing says empty and you keep pushing on that gas pedal, you're going to be broken down the side of the road. It's the same way, ladies. If your vitality level is low, your libido level is low, and you reach for coffee or a donut or dark chocolate, and you want to keep on going through it, you're going to break down on the side of the road, and possibly with an autoimmune disease like I did. There's a way out of this, and it's the first step of that freedom framework I referred to. Uncover the root cause. Look for clues from your body, your mind, your spirit, your emotions, and how you tell your story. I call this your libido story. If you're telling it from a victim standpoint, you're going to be activating that fight or flight system frequently. Poof, no libido. If you own that you're the author of your story, If you know that you're going to experience stress, no matter what, it's part of life, but how you perceive it is what activates the nervous system that gets activated. That is up to you. How you perceive yourself, how you perceive your old hurts, they affect your libido level, your life, and your health. I call this your libido mindset. So ask yourself, what's your libido mindset? It's a very important question because what's in your head goes to your bed. Thank you.